The night glimmered with elegance as the Peterson home came alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and warm conversation. Guests mingled beneath the soft glow of fairy lights strung across the backyard, toasting to friendships and moments worth celebrating. It was my belated birthday party, a carefully planned evening meant to bring joy. Yet, I couldn't shake the gnawing sensation that something was amiss. Jason, my husband of 10 years, stood by the patio bar, chatting animatedly with some colleagues. His charisma was in full force, his easy smile and occasional laugh drawing approving nods from those around him. Across the yard, Amanda, my best friend since college, laughed just as loudly, effortlessly blending into every circle she joined. But it wasn't her laughter that caught my attention. It was the way her gaze lingered on Jason when she thought no one was looking. A glimpse of suspicion as the night unfolded. I found myself hyper-aware of Amanda's movements. Her polished demeanor, her infectious laugh, the way she floated between conversations, all of it seemed deliberate. My unease grew when I noticed Jason glance in her direction more than once, his expression fleeting but unmistakably tense. I told myself I was imagining things. Amanda and I were practically sisters. She had been there through everything. Jason's proposal, our wedding, even the stressful move into our new home. If anyone was above suspicion, it was her. And yet, near the end of the evening, I noticed Amanda pull Jason aside near the garden gate. The warm, golden light barely reached them as they exchanged hushed words, their postures close and conspiratorial. The shattered moment unable to resist, I moved closer, staying hidden behind a cluster of potted plants. Their voices carried just enough for me to hear snippets of their conversation. "We can't keep doing this," Jason muttered, his tone urgent. Amanda touched his arm, her voice soft but firm. "I'm tired of waiting. We need to decide." My chest tightened as her words echoed in my ears. "Decide? Decide what?" "Not here," Jason replied, glancing over his shoulder. "She'll notice." The reveal the world tilted as realization dawned. My husband, the man who had promised me forever, and Amanda, my confidant, were hiding something. Something big enough to make Jason glance over his shoulder and Amanda press him for answers. They separated quickly when they noticed me approaching, their forced smiles and casual greetings doing little to mask the tension between them. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice steady but probing. "Of course," Jason said, his tone a little too bright. "Amanda was just asking about the wine." Amanda nodded, her laugh a touch too forced. "You know me, always trying to steal your hosting tips." I smiled, but my mind churned with suspicion. Their lie was paper-thin, and I wasn't about to let it go. The phone call later that night, long after the guests had left and the house had grown silent, Jason's phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but tonight was different. I reached for the phone, my heart pounding. The screen lit up with a single notification. Message from Amanda. I unlocked the phone. Jason had never bothered to change his passcode, and read the text. "We need to talk. This can't wait." The knot in my stomach tightened. Whatever they were hiding, it was about to come to light. The silent resolve as Jason stirred beside me. I slipped the phone back onto the nightstand and lay staring at the ceiling. My mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. They thought I was oblivious, that their smiles and whispered conversations would go unnoticed. But they underestimated me. By the time morning came, I had resolved to uncover the truth and make them regret every deceitful word, every stolen glance, and every smile that hid betrayal. The morning after the party, Jason moved about the kitchen with a surprising ease, humming softly as he brewed coffee. His carefree demeanor only fueled my suspicions. How could he act so normal after what I'd seen and heard? The text from Amanda still burned in my mind. "Late night?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. Jason glanced at me, his expression unbothered. "Not really. Just glad the party went off without a hitch. You seem to enjoy yourself." I smiled thinly, masking the churning storm inside me. It was a lovely evening. As he leaned down to kiss my cheek, I caught a faint whiff of something unfamiliar, Amanda's perfume. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning, but I stayed composed. This wasn't the moment to confront him. Not yet. Following the trail after Jason left for work, I sat down with his phone, my fingers trembling as I navigated to his messages. Amanda's text from the night before was still there, along with several others. Amanda, I can't stop thinking about last night. Jason, neither can I. But we need to be careful. The texts were vague, but the undertones were unmistakable. My pulse quickened as I scrolled further, piecing together their coded exchanges. Amanda, she's starting to notice. You need to talk to her. Jason, not yet. Let me handle this. Every word felt like a dagger to the heart. They weren't just hiding something. They were strategizing about how to keep me in the dark. An unwelcome guest later that afternoon, Amanda showed up at my house unannounced. She carried a bottle of wine, her bright smile as polished as ever. I was in the neighborhood, she said breezily. Thought I'd stop by and see how you're doing after the party. It was a thinly veiled excuse, but I played along, curious to see how far she'd go. Come in, I said, forcing warmth into my voice. I was just about to have some tea. As we sat in the living room, Amanda's gaze flickered around the room, avoiding direct eye contact. I could tell she was uneasy. You and Jason seemed close last night, I said casually, watching her reaction. Her smile faltered for a split second before she recovered. Jason's like a brother to me, she said, her laugh a little too high-pitched. You know that. Of course, I replied, my tone even. I just thought I saw you two having a rather intense conversation in the garden. Amanda's face reddened slightly, and she took a hurried sip of her tea. Oh, that? It was nothing. Just some work stuff. The first crack her words were unconvincing, but I didn't press further. Instead, I let the silence stretch, letting her discomfort grow. Finally, Amanda stood, muttering something about an appointment she needed to get to. As I walked her to the door, she hesitated, her hand resting on the doorknob. You know, she said, her voice softer now, Jason's lucky to have you. You're so understanding. I raised an eyebrow. Understanding? She nodded quickly. I mean, with his work and everything. He's under a lot of pressure. Is he? I asked, my gaze steady. Amanda fidgeted, then flashed one last nervous smile before leaving. Her departure left a strange mix of relief and resolve in its wake. A growing plan that evening, I sat in the quiet of our bedroom, reviewing everything I had discovered so far. The texts, the whispers, Amanda's awkward visit. It all pointed to something deeper than I had initially suspected. I needed more. If I was going to confront them, I wanted undeniable proof. The next day, while Jason was at work, I hired a private investigator. It felt drastic, but I was done second-guessing myself. If they were betraying me, I was going to expose it, and I wasn't going to give them any chance to deny it. Uncovering the web days turned into a week, and the investigators' updates trickled in. Photos of Jason and Amanda meeting at coffee shops and parking lots, their conversations animated and intense. There was nothing overtly damning, but their body language told a story of its own. Leaning in too closely, hands brushing just a little too often. The tipping point came when the investigator handed me a photo taken outside a hotel. Jason and Amanda stood by the entrance, their faces close as Jason whispered something that made Amanda smile. A private, intimate smile I hadn't seen in years. The unexpected call that evening, as I sat in the darkened living room, staring at the evidence spread across the coffee table, Jason walked in. He froze when he saw me, his eyes darting to the photos. What's this? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. You tell me, I replied, my tone icy. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Jason's face paled, and for a moment, he seemed at a loss for words. But then his expression hardened. You had me followed, he said, his voice rising. What the hell, Emily? Don't you dare turn this around on me, I shot back. You've been lying to me for months. Do you really think I wouldn't find out? The calm before the storm. Jason stared at me, his jaw clenched. It's not what it looks like. Then tell me what it is, I demanded. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it, and I followed his gaze. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. I picked up the phone and held it out to him. Answer it, I said, my voice cold. Jason hesitated, and in that moment, I saw the truth in his eyes. Jason didn't answer the phone. Instead, he let it buzz until the room fell silent again. I could see his mind racing, calculating his next move, but there was no escape from the inevitable. You're not going to explain this, are you? I asked, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. He sighed heavily and sat down across from me, his hands running through his hair. I don't know where to start, he admitted. How about the truth? I said, my tone sharp. That seems like a good place. The first revelation. Jason hesitated before speaking, his eyes fixed on the floor. It started a few months ago, he began. Amanda and we were spending more time together because of work. She needed help with some investment projects, and things just escalated. Escalated? I repeated, my voice rising. That's what you're calling it? It wasn't planned, he said quickly. I didn't mean for it to happen, Emily. But she was going through a rough time, and I guess I let myself get too involved. The words hit me like a physical blow. Amanda, my best friend, and Jason, the man I trusted above all else, had betrayed me together. Amanda's confession before I could respond. A knock at the door interrupted us. Jason's head snapped up, and his face went pale. I didn't have to guess who it was. I'll get it, I said coldly, rising from my seat. When I opened the door, Amanda stood there, her expression a mix of defiance and fear. Emily, please, she started, but I cut her off. Get in, I said, my voice low but firm. Amanda stepped inside, glancing nervously at Jason, who avoided her gaze. So, I said, crossing my arms as I faced them both. Let's hear it. The full story. No lies, no excuses. Amanda's hands trembled as she clutched her purse. Emily, I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear. It just happened. Stop saying that, I snapped. Things don't just happen. People make choices. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. I wanted answers. The shocking details slowly, the truth spilled out. It had started with Jason helping Amanda navigate a work crisis, a few late-night phone calls, a couple of meetings over drinks. Amanda had confided in him about her failing marriage and her feelings of loneliness. Jason, feeling unappreciated in our marriage, had been drawn to her vulnerability. What about me? I demanded, my voice breaking. You couldn't talk to me about how you felt? You had to go to her? Jason looked at me, guilt written all over his face. I didn't know how to, Emily. You were always so strong. I felt like I couldn't show you my weaknesses. And Amanda was what? A safe alternative? Neither of them answered, but their silence was enough. The flight to freedom. As the conversation wore on, another revelation surfaced. The flight to Miami. You were planning to leave, I said, staring at Amanda. Both of you. Amanda nodded reluctantly. It wasn't finalized yet, but yes. We talked about starting over. Away from all this. All this? I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You mean the life you both decided to destroy? Jason reached out, but I stepped back. Don't, I warned. You've done enough. The breaking point. The room fell into a tense silence, the weight of their betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Finally, I took a deep breath, gathering my strength. You two deserve each other, I said, my voice cold. But you won't get away with this. Jason frowned. What do you mean? I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the mantel, where the investigators' photos were stacked neatly in a folder. I grabbed it and tossed it onto the table. These, I said, my gaze piercing. These are going to everyone who matters. Your colleagues, Amanda's husband, and anyone else who needs to know what kind of people you are. Amanda's face turned ghostly pale. Emily, please. You can't do that. Watch me, I said. Their regret. The fallout was immediate. The next day, I sent the evidence to Amanda's husband, who wasted no time filing for divorce. Jason's office became a war zone as whispers of his infidelity spread. Amanda, once the center of attention at every social event, was now the subject of scandal and ridicule. And me? I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Watching them unravel didn't undo the pain they'd caused, but it gave me a sense of justice. The unexpected twist, but just when I thought the story was over, another piece of the puzzle emerged. Among the investigators' files, I found something that changed everything. A series of emails between Amanda and a third party, a name I didn't recognize. The emails hinted at a plan, something far bigger than a simple affair. This wasn't just about Jason, I realized, my heart racing. Amanda and Jason's betrayal was only the beginning. The discovery of the emails shattered what little resolution I thought I had. Amanda's betrayal had been devastating, Jason's cowardice infuriating. But this felt calculated, like a scheme I hadn't yet uncovered. I sat at the kitchen table, the emails spread out before me. Each one hinted at something larger: coded language, mentions of money transfers, and cryptic references to Phase 2. One name appeared repeatedly: Marcus Lang. Who was he, and what was his connection to Amanda? The investigator's return I called the private investigator, pushing past the weariness in my voice. I need you to look into someone named Marcus Lang, I said. Lang, he replied. That's a name I've come across before. Give me a day or two. The wait was agonizing. Every hour dragged as I obsessed over the possibilities. What was Amanda hiding? Was Jason involved in something more than infidelity? When the investigator finally called back, his tone was grave. Emily, you're not going to like this. The connection revealed, according to the investigator, Marcus Lang was a corporate consultant known for his aggressive tactics. He specialized in hostile takeovers and had a reputation for using underhanded methods to gain leverage over business rivals. He's been working with Amanda for months, the investigator explained. It looks like she's been feeding him information about Jason's company, financials, contracts, even internal emails. My guess? She's helping set up a takeover. I felt the air leave my lungs. Amanda wasn't just betraying me. She was sabotaging Jason professionally, too. And Jason, blind to her true motives, had been helping her every step of the way. A dangerous confrontation that evening. I waited for Jason to come home. When he walked through the door, his face was lined with exhaustion, but he barely looked at me. Rough day? I asked, my tone laced with sarcasm. He glanced at me warily. What do you want, Emily? I want answers, I said, throwing the emails onto the table. Who is Marcus Lang? And why is Amanda sending him confidential information about your company? Jason's face went pale. He picked up the papers, scanning them quickly before looking back at me. Where did you get this? He demanded. Don't worry about that, I shot back. Just tell me if you're in on this. Jason's expression shifted, a mix of shock and guilt. I didn't know, he said finally. I swear, Emily, I had no idea. Amanda's motive, I wasn't convinced. Then why were you helping her? Why would you risk everything for someone like Amanda? Jason sank into a chair, his head in his hands. I didn't think it was like this, he said, his voice muffled. She told me she needed help, personal stuff, not work. I never thought she'd sabotage you. I finished for him. She played you, Jason. She used you to get what she wanted, and now she's going to destroy everything you've built. The plan to stop her for the first time in weeks, Jason and I found ourselves on the same side. Despite the anger and betrayal between us, we both knew Amanda couldn't be allowed to succeed. We need to stop her, Jason said, determination hardening his features. But we need proof, something concrete to expose her and Lang. I nodded, though part of me wondered if Jason's resolve came more from self-preservation than genuine remorse. We decided to confront Amanda together, but not before gathering every piece of evidence we could find. Emails, financial records, even the investigator's photographs. All of it painted a damning picture. Amanda's downfall. The confrontation took place at a trendy cafe where Amanda often held court, basking in her effortless charm. But this time, Her confidence faltered when she saw Jason and me walk in together. "What's this?" she asked, her tone brittle as we sat down. "You tell us," I replied, sliding the folder of evidence across the table. Amanda's face paled as she flipped through the documents. "You've been spying on me," she hissed. "Call it what you want," Jason said coldly. "But it's over, Amanda. We know everything." Her composure cracked, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. "You don't understand," she stammered. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think," I interrupted. "You used me, you used Jason, and you used our friendship to get what you wanted. But you won't get away with it." The unexpected twist as Amanda tried to defend herself, Jason's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "It's Lang," he said, holding the phone up for me to see. Amanda froze, her eyes darting between us. "Don't answer it," she said quickly. Jason ignored her, pressing the call button and putting it on speaker. "Jason," Lang's voice drawled, "I hear there's been a complication. Let's not make this messy, shall we?" "What do you want?" Jason asked, his tone icy. Lang's reply was chilling. "I want Amanda to deliver what she promised. And if she doesn't, well, I have other ways of ensuring cooperation." The threat hung in the air, and Amanda's face crumbled. The storm breaks in that moment. I saw Amanda for what she truly was. Not just a schemer, but someone in over her head, caught between her own greed and Lang's ruthless ambition. "Help us bring him down," I said, my voice steady. "It's your only way out." Amanda hesitated, her fear warring with her pride. Finally, she nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "I'll tell you everything," she whispered. The beginning of the end as Amanda laid out the details of Lang's operation, I couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. The woman who had betrayed me was now helping to dismantle the very scheme she had worked so hard to create. But as we left the cafe, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. Lang wasn't the type to let go easily, and Amanda's cooperation might have painted an even bigger target on all of our backs. The storm was still brewing, and I knew we'd only seen the beginning. The days following Amanda's confession were a blur of preparation and tension. With her cooperation, we had everything we needed to expose Marcus Lang's operation. Yet, the closer we came to taking him down, the more dangerous it became. Lang was ruthless, and Amanda's betrayal of him put us all at risk. "Do you really think he'll let this go?" Amanda asked one night, her voice trembling. We were in Jason's office, poring over documents that outline Lang's schemes. "No," I said bluntly, "but he'll lose his power if we shine a light on what he's doing. The more people know, the harder it'll be for him to retaliate." Jason nodded, his jaw tight. "This ends now. The trap is set." Our plan was straightforward. Gather all the evidence Amanda had provided, combine it with the investigators' findings, and present it to the authorities. But before we could, Lang made his move. One evening, as I returned home from the grocery store, a sleek black car was parked in front of my house. The sight sent a chill down my spine. Two men in suits stood by the car, their expressions cold and uninviting. "Mrs. Carter," one of them said as I stepped out of my car, "Mr. Lang would like to speak with you." "I have nothing to say to him," I replied, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "It wasn't a request," the man said, opening the back door. Face to face with Lang, they took me to a high-rise office downtown, where Lang waited with the air of a man who owned the world. He was tall, impeccably dressed, and exuded a chilling confidence. "Emily," he greeted me, his smile sharp and predatory. "You've been busy." "You know why I'm here," I said, refusing to let him intimidate me. "It's over, Marcus." Lang's expression darkened. "You think you can end me with a few emails and a sob story from Amanda? You underestimate how deep my roots go." The power play. Lang leaned forward, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Amanda's betrayal was expected. People like her always crumble under pressure. But you, Emily, you're an interesting variable. "What do you want, Marcus?" I asked, my patience thinning. "I want you to stop," he said simply. Walk away, and I'll forget this ever happened. Keep pushing, and you'll regret it. The threat was clear, but I refused to back down. You're scared, I said, meeting his gaze. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying to make a deal. Lang's smile faded, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. You've made your choice, he said. The breaking point the next day, I shared what had happened with Jason and Amanda. Lang's intimidation tactics only strengthened our resolve. We need to act fast, Jason said, pacing the room. He knows we're coming for him, and he'll try to cover his tracks. Amanda, pale and visibly shaken, nodded. I'll testify, she said, whatever it takes to stop him. With her statement and the mountain of evidence we had gathered, we approached the authorities. It wasn't an easy decision. Lang's power and influence made him a formidable opponent, but we had no choice. The day of reckoning, the final confrontation unfolded in Lang's lavish office. Armed with law enforcement and a warrant, we watched as Lang's empire crumbled. His carefully curated facade shattered as agents confiscated documents and servers, dismantling the operation piece by piece. Lang was furious, his calm veneer replaced by raw anger. As they escorted him out in handcuffs, he turned to me, his eyes blazing. You'll regret this, he spat. But I didn't flinch. Not as much as you'll regret underestimating me. The aftermath with Lang's arrest, the immediate danger subsided. Amanda's testimony was critical in sealing his fate, and Jason's company narrowly avoided being destroyed. But the scars of betrayal remained. Amanda disappeared from my life, retreating into obscurity, while Jason and I faced the daunting task of rebuilding trust. It'll never be the same, will it? Jason asked one evening as we sat in the quiet of our living room. No, I admitted. But maybe that's a good thing. A new beginning months later, as I stood in the gallery showcasing my first photography exhibition, a passion I had rediscovered during the chaos, I felt a sense of peace. Jason was there, supportive but distant, as we worked toward defining a new relationship. And though the past lingered, it no longer defined me. The woman I had been, the one who trusted too easily, who let others dictate her worth, was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who understood the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for herself. Lang's threats, Amanda's betrayal, and Jason's cowardice had all been lessons. Painful ones, but lessons nonetheless. And as I looked around the room at the faces of friends and strangers admiring my work, I realized something profound. I had survived. Months passed, and life began to stabilize. Lang's empire crumbled under the weight of legal scrutiny, and Amanda had vanished from the public eye. Jason and I navigated the murky waters of our fractured relationship, both of us trying to find footing in the wake of the chaos. But just as I thought the storm had passed, a new discovery threatened to upend everything again. The letter had arrived in an unmarked envelope, left on my doorstep one rainy morning. I opened it cautiously, my heart sinking as I read the contents. Emily, I wasn't the only one working with Lang. Jason had his own secrets. You deserve to know the truth. Amanda, the note was short, but it set my mind ablaze. What secrets could Jason still be hiding? Had he been more involved with Lang than I realized? A search for answers that evening. While Jason was out, I couldn't resist digging deeper. His home office, once a place I rarely entered, now felt like a vault of hidden truths. I rifled through drawers, scanned emails, and finally stumbled upon a hidden USB drive, taped to the underside of his desk. My hands trembled as I plugged it into his laptop. The files contained correspondence between Jason and Lang, emails that dated back years. They detailed financial deals, questionable transactions, and even discussions about leveraging Amanda's connections to further their goals. Jason had lied to me. Confrontation. When Jason returned home, I was waiting for him in the living room, the USB drive on the coffee table between us. What's this? I asked, my voice steady but icy. Jason's face fell when he saw it. Emily, I can explain. Explain? I cut him off. You told me you didn't know anything about Lang's schemes, but these emails say otherwise. You've been working with him for years. Jason slumped into a chair, his hands covering his face. I didn't have a choice, he said finally. Lang approached me years ago, and I got in too deep. By the time I realized what he was capable of, it was too late to back out. A calculated move. I stared at him, my anger simmering. So, you risked everything. Your career, our marriage, because you were too scared to stand up to him? Jason looked up, his eyes pleading. I thought I could fix it, Emily. I thought if I played along, I could find a way out without losing everything. I shook my head, disgusted. You already lost everything, Jason. You just didn't realize it until now. An unexpected ally. As I grappled with Jason's betrayal, another unexpected twist emerged. Amanda reached out again, this time in person. She looked different, tired, but resolved. I know I'm the last person you want to see, she said, standing on my porch. But I need to make things right. What do you mean? I asked warily. Amanda handed me a folder. Lang wasn't just targeting Jason. He had plans for you too. I didn't realize it until after I started working with him, but he was watching you, Emily. He knew how strong you were, and that scared him. I opened the folder, my breath catching as I saw surveillance photos of myself. At work, at home, even during the party that started it all. Lang had been playing a deeper game than any of us had realized. The final chess move. Amanda's information revealed the full extent of Lang's operation, including connections to powerful allies still working in the shadows. I knew that taking them down would require more than evidence. It would require exposing the truth in a way they couldn't ignore. With Amanda's help, I crafted a plan. We leaked the files to trusted journalists, ensuring the story would reach the public before Lang's allies could suppress it. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Lang's remaining supporters abandoned him, and new arrests followed. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of justice. Letting go Jason's role in the scheme couldn't be ignored, and while his cooperation with authorities spared him prison, it couldn't save our marriage. I'm sorry, he said one evening as we finalized our separation. For everything. I know, I replied, but sometimes sorry isn't enough. A new beginning. With Lang gone and Jason out of my life, I found myself standing at the edge of something new. The betrayal, the heartbreak, and the danger had forged a stronger, wiser version of me. One sunny afternoon, as I walked through the bustling streets of my city, I stopped in front of a small art gallery. In the window was a painting, a swirling mix of colors that seemed to echo my journey. Interested? A voice asked. I turned to see the gallery owner, a kind-eyed man with an easy smile. Very, I replied, feeling a spark of curiosity I hadn't felt in years. As we talked, I realized something profound. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. The listener's question as the story ends. One lingering question remains for those who hear it. How far would you go to uncover the truth? And would you have the strength to rebuild after it?